Alright guys, the topic of this week is going to be about spiritual baggage and being able to lay that down. So does anyone want to take a guess on what spiritual baggage would be? Anyone?
It's like how you, like a burden?
Yeah, it's a very, it's a good way to put it. A burden? Well, but here's the thing guys, y'all hit almost exactly on the verse that we're going to use today. It's going to be out of Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 through 3. And it's actually on the, well, I can actually read it off this. It was cut it off and I moved it a little bit. When we talk today, guys, we're going to be talking about, the Bible talks about the Christian walk as a marathon and not a sprint. It compares the Christian walk to a race. And it asks you, and it actually commands you to run the race worth to win, basically. So the verse today, like I said, is going to be in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 through 2. And we actually, Dan talked a little bit about this the other day in the message that he did, and I really like this verse, these verses. And it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin." And here in weight, guys, that also says burden and other. So y'all hit it right on the head when we were talking. When I asked you what you thought that was. So, which clings so close with sin, which seems that clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set out before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of God. So, if I were going to run a race, guys, if I were going to run a marathon, what would I do? What do you think are some preparations that I would do?
Pace yourself?
Yeah. But before I get in the race, first of all.
Practice.
What?
Practice.
Yeah, you would definitely practice. What kind of clothes would I wear? Would I want to wear some cowboy boots and a bunch of a jacket?
You want to wear like cut-off shorts and a t-shirt or a sleeveless shirt. Okay, so when we're talking about that, guys, so when we get into verse 1, when it says let us lay aside every weight. So when we talk about that, we want to dress lightly. We want to dress free of burden. So we want to run that race free of hindrance. So when we talk about those things, what we're going to do, we're going to run with running shoes. We're going to run in shorts, not in some big, heavy pair of pants or something. And we're also going to probably run in something pretty light as a shirt. What else are we going to do? Wear the right shoes.
We're going to wear the right shoes. What would we drink? Would you want to drink Gatorade or water, right? We wouldn't want to go in it. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what does the Bible say that living water is? Does anybody know?
Holy water?
No.
Close?
That's different. But it's a very good guess.
Wait, say what?
Yeah, who does the Bible say is living water? It says if you drink of me, you'll never thirst again. Exactly. So when we talk about we're going to drink that water, somebody said we're going to put on shoes. So what did we learn last week in our armor of God thing? Didn't we learn about some shoes we were going to put on? The sandals of peace, the shoes that allow us to walk in peace every day. So most of all, guys, we're going to prepare for that marathon accordingly. But if we're gonna compare that to our Christian life, what will we do? Once we become Christian, and if you're not a Christian yet, talk to me after if you want to be, talk to me after the message, and I'll be happy to help you out, at least to point you in the right direction, so you can learn a little bit more about it. So once we become a Christian, what will we do to help us run the race that God has called us to run? What are some things that we're supposed to do as Christians? Anybody? Huh? Pray. Yeah. Witness. Read our Bible. We're going to do those things like we talked about the other day when we were talking about the enemy. Who's he going to attack?
You.
He's going to attack you, especially when you're not doing the things you're supposed to do. So you definitely want to stay fit, so to speak. You want to practice your faith. Because
so, are you saying like stay fit spiritually?
Stay fit spiritually. But I mean, it's a good thing to stay fit actually physically, but spiritually is more important. And you need to definitely keep yourself in the best possible condition so you're able to keep running that race. So, because what the enemy likes to do is he likes to throw up some roadblocks in our way to keep us from running the race that God's called us to run. So next, guys, when we start talking about spiritual baggage, when I say it starts when we're young. What do we think are some spiritual baggage, some things that could burden us when we're little? You know, what about at school? What could happen to you that would probably make you
bullied?
You were bullied. Yeah, very good example. Very good. So let's say this kid here, somebody at school said he looked like a nerd and decided to beat him up because he had glasses. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to pick those baggage and stuff of resentment and fear that someone's going to beat him up again. Because those things we carry from doesn't matter if it's your parents getting a divorce when you're little, it's if you don't know your father, your mother, whatever the case may be, you carry those things even if you don't know it. It affects you. And it has affected many things that I did early in childhood, still have affected me up until recently, until I was ready to deal with those things. So, those things start when we're young. And the first thing we're going to talk about, guys, is going to be, we're going to talk about 10 things, 10 different sins, if you want to call it that, that will weigh us down. And I also want to get a little bit deeper. We're going to talk about the actual sins in general, but there are more things that can weigh us down, and not just what I've got up here. Okay, so it's sin, or these bags are not limited to the things that I'm going to list on here. Your bags are going to look different than my bags. Okay? You've had different life experiences than I've had, so your life and your baggage is going to look different than mine. Go ahead.
So the difference would be if it's big or thin.
What do you mean? The baggage? I mean, I think you can have light bags that are light baggage, and I think you can have really heavy bags that are going to affect you tremendously throughout your life. And if you notice, guys, I've got these bags up here today. I don't know if you guys caught them, but I'm actually going to do a demonstration after a while and let you guys kind of see what some of my baggage has been over the years.
Well, you're getting help.
Huh? You don't want to pick my bags up. I'll put it that way. My bags were very heavy. So, but we'll learn how to deal with that. But actually, guys, the sin of unforgiveness. What do you think when we talk about unforgiveness? What are we talking about?
Like, I was just gonna give an example, like unforgiveness. Like, say somebody calls you something or does something to you.
Very good. That's what I'm looking for.
Unforgiving.
I'm looking for. Although the things that you guys said were correct, the weight of unforgiveness in this sense, guys, is going to be. You did something to me 10 years ago, and I don't want to deal with it, so I just get mad and I don't talk to you anymore.
Like holding a grudge?
Yeah, I mean, if someone bullies me, but here's the thing, guys. When someone does something to me, say they call me a name or they push me down or something like that, the problem with those things is that person probably never thinks about it again after that day. They probably do that a lot, and you're no different than anyone else. Someone's done that to them in the past, whether their father or something like that has been physically abusive towards them. So that's the way they act out. So unforgiveness would be someone doing that to me and me choosing not to forgive. So when I choose to hold that burden on, who does that affect in the long run? The other person doesn't remember it after that, doesn't really care. Who's it bothering? It's bothering me. I mean, they don't care about it. They don't remember it. Go ahead, Gary.
It takes a piece out of me.
Very much so. And what more than takes the piece out, it adds a piece to it. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? That's when we're going to get into this. We're adding pounds, adding weight.
Just making the bag heavier.
Yes, absolutely. Each one of these things is not just one. It's not just a little thing in one bag. It's actually a whole bag altogether. So you got 10 of these things on, you're carrying 10 things around. So yeah, the sin of unforgiveness, guys, and the Bible tells us, guys, that if we do not forgive others, Christ won't forgive us. So we have to, as Christian, there are people, since I've been a Christian, and even recently, there have been people that have wronged me pretty seriously. And everything in my being, guys, wants to hate that person. Because that's what when we talk about the carnal mind or the flesh, wants me to do. It wants me to hate. It wants me to be angry. It wants me to do those things that are against God. But the Spirit of God in me, the Holy Spirit, calls me not to do those things. So I have to listen to the Spirit side of it. So, the way of unforgiveness. Jealousy. Anybody, I'm pretty sure you guys probably know what that is.
Yeah.
Alright. So, somebody's family has a brand new Mercedes. And I am driving around a 1995 Honda Accord that I have to put 3 gallons of water in a day or it'll shut down. So it is easy for me to think, oh, I deserve that Mercedes. I'm such a good guy. I do this. But the thing is, guys, is what happens is I start to covet what that person has. If God wants me to have something, I'll have it. Trust me in that. I will have it. And as long as I'm in the will of God. So really what jealousy does, guys, it allows us to pick up a resentment. We carry those, the bag of jealousy around, and it's one that I hope none of you have had to deal with yet in your young lives. But this is one that I've struggled with. And I'm not just talking, drunkenness is going to be getting drunk off alcohol or being addicted to drugs. You know, it's a dependency on some substance in order for me to feel normal. In order for me to be able to cope with life, I have to get belligerently drunk or so high I can't think, because guess what? I don't want to deal with my baggage. I don't want to deal with my baggage, so I take this and I do it to numb my feelings. I do it to numb so I don't have to think about, you know, being unforgiving, being angry, being any of those things, so I try to numb myself. And the problem with this, guys, is when you sober up, guess what? Anybody want to take a guess about what's...
Yeah, deal with it still.
You still got to deal with it. So what do you have to do the next day?
Get drunk.
Get drunk again. So when we start talking about alcoholism and drug addiction, that's why we have alcoholics and drug addicts, guys, is because that's how they've coped with life, and they have continued to cope with life in that way. So yeah, that's been one of my bags over the years. Go ahead.
So you can't give your bags to somebody else?
Can you give? I'll talk about that here in just a minute. It is possible. There's a certain kind of person that can do that. And I think it's possible if I had, say, Isaac and I are friends. We go to a party, he's never done drugs before, and I say, hey Isaac, you want to get high? I'll give you some drugs. He does that. I give him baggage because guess what? I'm adding a bag to him. I'm adding a burden to him. So when we start talking about adding bags, absolutely it's possible to do these things, to add bags to each other. And that's what we're supposed to do as Christians. We're supposed to lighten a person's load, not make it more cumbersome. So, but yeah, drunkenness, guy, like I said, that's been a big one in my life, and just within the last year, have I really got it where I don't want to do it. So that's only by the power of God. Anger. Yeah. Anger. I mean, guys, I've had a problem with this too.
That's my worst.
Huh?
That's my worst.
That's your worst? But see, guys, and that's what I'm saying. One of these things you're going to be able to pick up. You're not going to be able to apply them all to your life, but you're going to be able to see, 2, 3, 4 of them that you might have an issue with. And there's nothing wrong with having an issue with these things, guys. Everyone does. Everyone's good. And there's not one of these that are worse than the other. These are all sin, all falling short of God. Go ahead.
Mine's alcohol abuse.
What's that?
Mine's alcohol.
Yours is alcohol abuse?
Yeah.
I'll get you in rehab here after church. So, go ahead, Isaac.
Like, sometimes if I were to get really angry, like, I can't even find my phone and not say that.
Yeah. And that's, go ahead.
Because I've got anger issues with the fact that I was deaf the kid today at school.
You were what?
I was deaf the kid today at school.
Well, and that's what that is the problem of a lack of self-control. So, anger, guys, I've had a real problem with it. Someone would do something to me, or they would call me a name. First thing I want to do is go punch them in the face. I mean, just be totally honest with you. I mean, that's how I dealt with things. I didn't know how to deal with my problems with words and going to a person and telling them, you know, what I had an issue with. I just wanted to go punch them in the face and get it over with. But guys, those problems here, when we start talking about being violent, doing those things, that is totally against what a Christian should do. And if you decide to go that route, there are repercussions for it. You get jail time. You get, and jail's no fun. And worry. I've dealt with this as well in the past. At the age of 17, I got into a car with a drunk driver when I was a junior in high school. And she thought that the police were behind us and floored it at 115 miles an hour. And we flipped over in the car 6 times, and my head went through the side window. I put my seatbelt on 5 seconds before we crashed. I would be dead. So, I developed what's called post-traumatic stress disorder, where I constantly would worry about when I got into a car, am I going to have a car crash? Am I going to get into the car, someone's going to hit us? So, you know, those things. Absolutely, I think that's an anxiety. And also soldiers, a lot of times. I know some of you guys are in ROTC. They are in a, say, a Humvee, and they're driving down the road like they would any other time, and some guy blows them up with an IED. Well, those people, after they get in that, if they survive it, what happens is they'll be driving, they'll get out of the Army, and they're driving down the street in America, and that PTSD, what it does is it makes them worry about those same things that caused that traumatic event. For me, it was a car crash, and the thing is, guys, is the Bible tells us not to worry. That by worrying, you're not going to add 1 second to your life, and that's the very truth. If I worry about something all day, it's not going to make a bit of difference in the outcome. None whatsoever. And 99.9% of the things I've worried about have never happened. So, yes. I mean, I was someone I could find something to worry about anything. I didn't have a foundation. My foundation, I was a Christian, but I didn't have peace in my life, and I wasn't living through the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, and not able to you know, basically know that God has a plan for me, you know, for me to have a future and not to harm me. And that's in Jeremiah. And he tells us, you know, basically what's going to happen is going to happen. You're not going to be able to do anything about it. Live your life, live it for me, and you'll be fine. So, once we stop talking about worry, like I said, guys, I did have a problem with that. Guilt. We go back to the same thing with guilt of the guy in Iraq, or Afghanistan. If, say, he was the one driving that SUV or that Humvee, this guy might say, "Man, if I wouldn't have driven the car that way that day, we wouldn't have died, or my friend wouldn't have died." He has guilt from that, and I know I have many friends that were in Afghanistan and Iraq, and some of their friends died. So they carry guilt around every day because they think, if I would have just been with them, they wouldn't have died. If I would have just not went that way, then we wouldn't have got blown up. If I would have done this, that wouldn't have happened. And that's not the truth, guys. Guilt doesn't fix anything. Basically, until we're able to basically realize that God had a plan for that person too, my plan is not necessarily their plan. So, I mean, we're not promised a certain amount of time on this earth. Go ahead.
Can God, if you try and kind of meet him halfway, can he give you the career that you really want?
Give you what?
Like the career that you...
I think that you'll have the career that he wants you to have. I think, and here's the thing, guys. This is not what I thought I would be doing. Okay? I lived a life about as far as a preacher as you can live. Okay? I did not live a godly life for 75, 80% of my life. So, the career I wanted was one that was going to give me tons of money and going to give me all this stuff and nice cars and all those things. But, have you ever noticed Robin Williams, everyone knows who he is.
Yeah.
He had more money than anybody, all of us in this room put together, and he was still miserable. Miserable enough to end his life, guys. And I had to, even though I don't have a bunch of money, I have peace. I mean, I'm happy. So God has me in the place that He wants me, that I can be the most effective for Him, and that I can reach people for Him. Go ahead. But anyways, guys, it was. And this is one that some of you are getting to the age that your body's changing, and you start thinking about girls or thinking about boys more. And when we talk about this, we're just talking about premarital sex, thinking about girls or guys in a way that God doesn't call you to do, internet pornography, things that are. And this is what we were talking about earlier. It's a common misquoted verse. Anyone ever heard money is the root of all evil? Everyone ever heard that?
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's the real part of it is, if you notice, the love of money. The love of money is the root of all evil. So having money is essential. If I don't have money, I can't pay my bills, I can't eat, I can't do any of those things. So it's important to have money. But when we start loving money so much that we get greedy, or we want to take what someone else has or hoard everything for myself, who am I serving? Serving myself. Who does God call me to serve? Him and others. So, you cannot have this and serve God. You cannot have greed. You cannot be greedy and serve God. Because I am to put other people before me. And if I don't do that, then I'm serving myself. And like we talked about a few weeks ago, it is we have to serve Him above all else, and that's what. And He talks about Him. Jesus is talking about Himself, and in the Bible, He says, "I have come to serve, not to be served." So when He came and He died for us on the cross, He was doing that not for Himself. Because it says in the Bible that when He was on the cross, He said, I could have called down legions of angels to come and save me from this. Or I could have never went to the cross. But the thing is, guys, He put us above Himself.
He chose Him.
Yes. And the thing is, guys, is that's when once we become a follower of Christ, we have to live the life that He lived. We are to be, as the Bible says, His hands and feet. Once we become Christ followers, we are to use our hands and our feet to go where He says and fix a broken world with our hands. So, greed, like I said, no way to serve God like that. And this is in America, we're taught that pride is a good thing. And that's really where our issue a lot of the time happens. We're taught to go after as much money as we can get. We're taught to lust after women. We're taught to, for men, we're taught to be prideful, to build ourselves up. Don't worry about, as long as I get what I need, I don't really care about them. They can do what they want for themselves. And so pride, guys, the issue with it is this right here can make you not even see the fact that you have any of the rest of it. Because if I'm prideful, I'm going to say, no, I don't have a problem with lust. No, I don't have a problem with greed for money. I work for that money. I deserve it. I do this. I do that. I'm not jealous. That person's jealous of me. I'm not angry. I have a right to be angry. Those things that this will tell you that the voice inside of you that's saying it's wrong, talking about the Holy Spirit, once you become a Christian, the voice that is wrong. So pride in the Bible talks about, and it's a fairly short verse, and it says, pride before the fall. Okay, consequences of weight. I wanted somebody to what would be the consequences of that weight in our life, having any of these things. Huh? Can hurt your back. Yeah. Gary?
Because, oh, he said it.
Suicide? Yeah. I mean, I think that's when we become so burdened down that, for me, when I attempted suicide, my wife had just told me she was leaving me, taking my child, which is named after me. It was 3 years old, and was leaving. So I went into the medicine cabinet, took 75 Xanax and 10 hydrocodone pills, and was ready to die. I didn't want to live anymore. And the thing is, guys, I was tired of hurting. These things, these weights, became so big in my life that I could no longer manage it on my own. So I was going to take the easy way out. And it is very easy to get burdened down so heavily that you feel better. And once if you ever start getting to that point, you need to talk to someone before it gets out of, before you do something really stupid. It's going to affect not just you, but your family and your friends as well. So, another consequence of that weight in our life is that it causes us to stumble. So, if I have unjust weight on me, if I have those cowboy boots and that big jacket and some, y'all are probably too young to know what MC Hammer pants are, but anyway, anyways, if I had those on, big baggy pants, then I would be more likely to fall.
If your bags are full, like you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Can you ever empty them out?
We will talk about that in just a moment. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, these weights are self-destructive. They are, when I continue to let these weights, or you want to say little bombs, or whatever you want to say, in my life, and I continually walk around with those things, it's a matter of time before I blow up. It's a matter of time before something is going to happen so bad, so drastic that, you know, I'm going to probably have a big consequence to deal with. For me, I mean, with my drugs and alcohol addiction, it didn't get bad overnight, but it did get bad over a course of several years. So, very self-destructive behavior, and it just constantly, once you blow up once, it's just a continual destructive pattern. So, this is the next one. It slows our spiritual growth. So, God, in that verse we read earlier, it says, the race that God has set out for you to run. Every one of us has a plan that God has set out from the beginning of time. So, for me, it is whatever. It was for me to become a minister, to do all this. I can take detours from God's plan, and what will happen is I will miss out on some of the blessings, guys. And not just blessings for me, but imagine, guys, if I were not doing what I'm doing now. I couldn't help anyone. I couldn't help anyone, because guess what? I'm still in the problem. I'm still someone that's having to be helped. So, it causes slows our spiritual growth, and it keeps us from knowing who God is more, and also getting to experience the joy and the blessing and the peace that He promises us. And it's a promise, guys, and God, it's very clear that God cannot lie. It's against His nature. So, and anything that I've ever done in the will of God, done for God, and done, it didn't necessarily work out the way I had planned, because, listen, guys, I would not have chose for my wife to leave me and to take my son so I could never see him again. That's not the way I would have chose to get to the point I'm at right now. But once I made the decision to take a detour, and I met my wife at a party, and, you know, out of the will of God. One weekend, out of the will of God, and there it was. So, that was the detour that I took. And in order for God to correct my path, there had to be pain in my life to correct it. And it's never easy to correct yourself off of the narrow path, the good path, and get you back Because basically, guys, you got to think of it, there's those two paths, right? So there's one path going this way, one path going this way. What's in between those two paths? You got two roads in between them, what it is? A bunch of bumps and rocks and everything else. So in order for me to get from one road back to the road I'm supposed to be on, there's going to be some difficulty. Yes, absolutely. But God says He's with me and that He'll never leave me or forsake me. So I can take comfort in that. And here's when we start talking about, you know, carrying bags, carrying things. This is what we should be carrying, guys. And the verse I picked out, and this is going to be and this is out of Matthew, and it says, "Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me." And this is Jesus speaking, guys. It says, "Whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it." Anybody understand what that means?
No.
Nope.
I don't understand.
All right. What is the cross? To Jesus, what was the cross?
Punishment.
Yeah, it was an instrument of death. It was the same thing as a electric chair or something like that would be in this day and age. So, it's saying that you have to put your old self to death. Not literally, but spiritually. Put yourself to death, your flesh to death, and it says to follow me. Because if you do not follow me, He's saying you're not worthy of me. You know, you're not worthy to be called my follower if you're not willing to do what I ask you to do. And it took me a long time to get to the point where I was willing to do everything that God called me to do. Because I would do about 80% of it before. I mean, once I became a Christian, I know I was saved at 23 years of age, and I turned 34 on September 8th, so a little over 10 years ago. So I've been a Christian all that time, but my spiritual growth was slow because I chose to not follow God all the time.